Today we are joined with Vicki McKenna for our weekly Culture Cast segment. Vicki, good to see you. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure, Duke. My pleasure.
I think we have really two very important stories coming out of the education field that don't presage well for the future of the country unless we get our minds and our hearts around eradicating this kind of systemic nonsense about racism. First, we have a situation where we have New York University student kids petitioning for black-only housing so they can feel included. And not only are they petitioning for black-only housing, they want the fraternities and sororities that have been on campus for decades and decades and decades to be vacated, to throw the largely white fraternity and sorority girls and boys off and give those buildings to all the minority groups as a form of reparations.
Yeah, well, this is the left's theory of everything. So they tried environmentalism and they tried climate change. And they couldn't really make it stick because nobody really cared. But everybody in America is horrified for being accused of being racist. So we've let a lot of this go for several decades and now not realizing that it was metastasizing into this. Look, this is what they're attacking, the very concept of property rights. And if they're attacking the concept of property rights on a college campus, do you think that they might be attacking the concept of property rights in your neighborhood someday? Of course that will happen. You have got, and this was not included obviously in this story, but going on Capitol Hill, you have got an attack on the very concept of democracy and the obliteration of any kind of election integrity control, with Joe Biden claiming that the reason we have to blow up elections in the United States is because John Lewis fought the civil rights fight back with Martin Luther King, and black people apparently cannot be expected to produce photo ID or sign a document saying they are who they say they are. So we have to federalize all elections, effectively destroying our voice to stop any of this. And then after that, you've seen what the federal government is willing to do with the CDC, declaring that hospitals should be permitted to and encouraged to declare racism as a comorbidity in treating COVID. It just keeps unwinding. It is the political theory of everything, and it can and will consume America if we are not willing to do something dramatic to stop it.
On another level, this goes to a point that I have made time and time again. When you scratch the surface of Black Lives Matter rhetoric, it really isn't about race. It's about communism, socialism, the spread of Marxism. And think about what they're doing here. They're using race as the excuse to engage in a very socialist, collectivist seizing of property that doesn't belong to them. Take a quick look here at the petition itself. Here's what they're asking for. They're asking for, we members of the black student body demand that NYU implement black student housing on campus in the vein of themed engagement floors across first-year and upperclassmen resident halls. Here's what we're asking for. Floors completely comprised of black identifying students. Black programming and in-hall events curated by the RA for the floor community. Required bias and diversity training for all residents before entering NYU housing. Disciplinary action for discriminatory racist behavior within the residence halls, which clearly wouldn't apply to the black students. And the creation of a board of student leaders in residential life focused on tackling issues of diversity and racism within the res life halls.
And it doesn't. And the thing is, it doesn't surprise us that this is happening right now. It doesn't literally surprises no one unless you've been sleeping under a rock for the last several years. So you have got and you're right about this being about communism and being about socialism. And we just swapped out class for race. The otherized group, and you know, if you've read Gulag Archipelago, you've read some of the stories about the rise of communism and the destructive, declarations made by those who have, assigned themselves the privileged group category. Very bad things can happen. Very deadly things can happen. And so now, instead of it being the merchant class or the business class, it's anybody who is not in the oppressed class that has become otherized. And we are not allowed to escape the collective identity. We're not allowed to declare ourselves individuals. My goodness, no, we've gotten rid of God, so we have no actual reason or logic to be able to do that. We are just never going to be allowed to escape the condition as oppressor. And it is going on right now in this world, in North Korea. That is exactly how the culture of North Korea operates. You're never allowed to escape the declaration that you are an oppressor. It doesn't matter if you're 3 generations down, 10 generations down. That is the vision. That's the utopia that these power mad, ignorant, historically ignorant, selfish, unmoored from any kind of morality, leftists have in store for us. And we all sit around and we think, oh, it couldn't possibly happen. I mean, come on, this is kind of silly. 5 years ago, people were laughing at this. They shouldn't be laughing at this. And this will escape containment on campus in very short order.
It's odd. It's as if these minority groups are seceding from the union and segregating themselves, but all the while insisting they keep your property when they break away. It's the worst of both worlds. After the break, a similar story. Joined again by Vicki McKenna for the second part of our Culture Cast, and this is one I think that ties perfectly into the first one. You have Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, for the 18th millionth time, looking into the cameras and telling a flat-out lie. This time he's talking to a group of minority black kids at a university, and he is telling them that he was arrested during civil rights movement for the racial struggle. I mean, this is the same guy. He told us that, remember when he was in South Africa, he was arrested going to see Mandela. Now, you're right, now he was arrested marching in the street. This is the guy who cozied up to, in the 70s, all the segregationists. He was friends with Robert KKK Byrd, right? There wasn't a segregationist former Klansman in the Congress who he was not buddies and chums with. How is it that the president of these United States can look into the camera and lie day in and day out repeatedly, and not a word from the progressive left, who accuses everybody on the right for lying all the time?
Yeah, and everybody on the right is guilty, again, collectively. If one person on the right makes a misstatement even, never mind lies. But this is and you know this, I mean, you're part of the university culture, so you see it every single day. The leftists exempt themselves from the rules. And I can spend an hour telling you how the left has exempted itself from the rules just in the last 3 weeks. They exempt themselves from the Constitution. They exempt themselves from the rule of law. They exempt themselves from basic administrative rules. They exempt themselves from morality. They exempt themselves from any judgment. They exempt themselves from hypocrisy. So Joe Biden telling a lie about being at the civil rights struggle, you know, all you need in order to pass in the minds of the left is to be able to be part of the use value, part of that utilitarian demand that they have, that you become part of the solution. And their solution is about tearing down morality and tearing down the Constitution and tearing down this culture and replacing it with something ugly like North Korea or Russia or Nazi Germany. So they've exempted themselves. You know that. You've talked to students. They're proud to be ignorant. They're proud to be caught in a lie because you're already illegitimate, so it doesn't matter.
We just saw last week the wise Latina, the Sonia Sotomayor, just out of left talk and lying and or demonstrating gross ignorance. And the cows on The View actually defended her, even though what she said was wrong, she was really right. And so take a look at Joe Biden telling this particular lie.
I did not walk in the shoes of generations of students who walked these grounds, but I walked other grounds because I'm so damn old I was there as well. They think I'm kidding, man. Seems like yesterday, the first time I got arrested. Anyway.
Joe Biden, driving a truck, getting arrested, doing it all.
Hanging with Corn Pop,
Jeez.
Doing it all. I mean, the only thing that explains this is that it's okay. He checks the right box in terms of his use value. I mean, he's an old cisgender white guy, but it doesn't matter because that old cisgender white guy is kowtowing to every demand from the most radical elements of the left. The only reason you might want to run away from Joe Biden, as apparently Stacey Abrams did, was because he looks like a dementia-addled, drooling fool, which is exactly what he is. But again, this isn't about Joe Biden as an individual who palled around with segregationists. This is about Joe Biden's use value as part of the collective. So when he becomes useless, they'll start criticizing him. But right now he's useful. He's trying to blow up the filibuster to destroy the very concept of this republic, which is allowing us to vote and have our vote be meaningful enough that we trust that it counts.